Hi everybody. This is Let's Play 2025 May week 3 and I'm going to do embellishing this week. Here's where I begin. I've got my stitched block trimmed down. I haven't finished stitching the inside of this trim yet. And I'm still not sure about adding pieces to here because of the edge pieces I've got planned. I don't think there's really going to be much left, so I think that probably is just right. I did cut out, waiting to be ironed, this trim here. That's going to go here. I really like the subtle stripe, and I'm featuring it by having it horizontal, and as opposed to vertical. And I've got this one cut out as well for waiting for sunshine to press. And I'm still not fully decided whether it's going to go here. Oh yes, I am. I just decided it's going to go here. And for this side, I still have this seam binding plan, but I have to get it pressed better. I tried pressing it and it's just not quite getting all the folds out of it. So what I'm going to do is my steam version of taking care of ribbon. Something I learned from my mom. You put a kettle on, and when it's steaming, you run it across the steam. And with the silk ribbon I use it on, it works perfectly. So I'm hoping this will be the same. And if you don't recall, my plan is to put it here and then do some embroidery on top. I think my plan is to do the feather stitch with little French knots as little rosebuds all the way up. I think that'll be pretty. I have my frog. I still haven't looked it up to see if that's really what it's called, but I think it's called a frog, to put here. And I still think I'm planning on doing, get that down a bit, these maybe here, though with my shinies that I talked about, I might have a plan for those. I'm thinking maybe some just tiny little flowers cut from them to go somewhere. I'm not really sure. Maybe mixed in with these. I don't know. It's a thought. And what else? Oh yes, I was going to share my fan plan. Okay, let's get rid of these for now. Move these over. What I found, I'm going to do my fan in a similar way as the teddy bear. I'm going to make it on a, I would do this anyways, but I'm going to make it on a background and then a foundation, and then I will add it to this. And my plan is, usually with crazy quilting and things like that, I would have all different fabrics in the raise there, but what I've decided to do is just do the two velvets that I have that work with this quilt, and just alternate the two, which I think is just going to be beautiful. Just the two of them is going to be a nice feature. And now this isn't for sure, but in the arc of my fan, I think I'm going to cut this little flower here, flower bouquet, because it just matches so well, and it'll like be coming out of the fan that way. I don't know. I was thinking of finding a way to use this in the piece, but it's too big and not quite all the right colors either, and I just didn't feel like embroidering over the colors that aren't right to make them right. Anyway, so that's my plan for the fan. I'll have that later in this video too. Okay, so I'll get started, and when I have more to share, I'll come back. Here's how I'm making my fan. I traced my pattern. I put the pattern up on a window and put the foundation fabric on top of it, and I traced it with a mechanical pencil. I'm going to put the fabric, as with Crazy Quilting, I'm going to put the fabric on this side when I stitch it, and actually paper piecing is like this as well. And then on the back side is where I'll do my stitching from. I could probably set my machine up and stitch these by machine, but being velvet and movable, and the fact that this is all hand stitching, and I'm quite happy about that, I'm just going to stitch them by hand. What I did need to decide before I start stitching is, am I going to do it pink, teal, pink, teal, pink, or am I going to do it the other way, teal, pink, teal? So am I going to have 3 of the pinks against 2 of the, yeah, so I have to decide that. So I thought I'd do that on camera. This is quite, it's a hot color, so it just really is there. And this is a cool color and isn't so much. Now it's going to go here. So the fact that I have teals all around kind of makes me think that's why I started with the pink. But I don't think I like this one. And truthfully, this teal is different enough that it, even if I had it on the edges, it would still stand and show up against those. So let's try it with 3 of those and 2 of these instead. Oh, already I like it better. Yes, this is such a hot color that having more of the cool color, I think, is a good balance. And then, as I mentioned, if I can do it, I'm going to put this bouquet in the arc like that. Yeah, I think that'll look nice. Okay, so basically, as with paper piecing, you fold the fabric 1/4 inch away from the line towards, actually I'm going to start with the center patch instead, so that's that one. So you fold the line 1/4 inch away so you know how far you need to put your fabric for a seam allowance. It can be approximate. And then you put your patch on the edge of that, making sure it's going to go over where it needs to go, so you have extra. And then you take your patch that goes here and you put it face down. Actually, I'm going to switch off. That one didn't quite get nicely pressed. I mean, I pressed it, but it just didn't, whatever that was, didn't come out. So I don't want that as my center blade. I'd like this one instead. So yeah, and then you put your piece that goes here on top. Actually, it's supposed to be on the back, sorry. Here we go. So you're kind of holding it up to the light and doing it that way, making sure. So then you still put it on that line. Hold it up to the light to make sure I'm over good. I am. And in this case also, I want to make sure the nap is going the same. See? Glad I double checked. And oh, I also want to do it this way, so it's gonna have to be like that. Okay, double checking in the light again. Now this line over, yeah, and then I just temporarily pin it and until I have it stitched. Then when it's stitched, So on this side, I will hand stitch along the line, a little over into here, and all the way over, and covering that seam allowance. And when it's all stitched, I flip the rose color pink one over and do that fold line again, and then trim the pink to that line. Maybe, you know what, I will come back. I'm gonna stitch this off camera, and I will come back and show you the next part. Okay, I'm almost finished stitching my line. I just thought I'd show you how I did that. I'm just using regular cotton sewing thread on a thin needle. A big reason I don't show you this on camera is, one, you probably already know how to do it, and you don't want to sit there and watch me stitch. And if I'm wrong about that, let me know, but that's what I assume. And secondly, because I can't see farther away, it's hard for me to stitch on camera, because right at the moment I'm stitching just from my screen. So if I do it over here, maybe I can do it. I need to see it this close for me to do well. So okay, I basically did a small back stitch. So I come up a little bit, I'd say 1/16 of an inch or so, past where I came up the last time, and pull my thread through. Because this is velvet, I'm stab stitching. I'm not stitching like continuously, because it's too hard with the velvet. So, and then I go back down in the spot where I came up the last time. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to knock the camera. There. So I'm gonna do a few more, and it'd probably go faster if I didn't try to show you each one. Okay, I'm gonna sit back down and I'm not sure if you're going to get to see this, but I'm going to finish off those, because I didn't come on here to really show you how to do a back stitch. But let's see if this is helpful to you. I won't know till I look back later at the actual video, which I try to do to see what I didn't see. Okay, so now I'm at the edge, and this is the seam allowance, so I want to make sure I go into it a little bit, just to make sure the patch is stitched, to get the patches are stitched together. I hope you get to see that on camera. Okay, now finish it off. Yeah, I can do it on the back. That's the other opposite side. The fabric doesn't have to be exact. I mean, this, because it's velvet, it kind of starts to go a bit, it moves. No matter how many times I've stitched velvet, it's moved on me. So anyways, here's how I finish it off. I just take a tiny stitch, of course, and I run the thread through the hoop, and then give it a tug. I do that twice. Second. Okay, I can put the pin. So do that twice. And then even just so that just before I snip it, I try and even stitch it a little bit in, just to a bit of a tail, so it's buried. And then I, cut it off. So Now that I've finished doing that, what you do is you take the second piece, the one that was on top, and you finger press it over. Now with velvet, I will not get the iron and press it. I did press them before I started using them, but I pressed it all. They're cotton, and I pressed them from the back side only. Yeah, so this is only finger pressing that gets done here. So just like with paper piecing, you turn it over, you fold the fabric about a 1/4 inch, and technically I probably would get my ruler. I guess I could do that here. With paper I would do this, but since it's fabric it just seems silly. So, and it doesn't have to be exact either, because I'm hand stitching it and I'm stitching on the line, not measuring the seam allowance as I stitch. Oh, that's way big. Better. So then I tuck the patch back. No, I don't. Sorry, it's been a bit. I fold the fabric over where I want that seam allowance to end, and using let's use the skinnier ruler, that's probably better. Using a ruler, I line it up with just the edge of the foundation fabric, making sure that I'm not going to cut the foundation fabric. And you trim off the excess, and look at that, I didn't do a good job at all. I was trying to be so careful, and I ended up, yeah, velvet, just blaming it on the velvet. I could do it with scissors too. Okay, so I've done that, and then I take my next patch and put it over the edge of, right to the edge of where that's to be. I pin them and I stitch again. Now I'm going to keep doing that, and I'll come back when I've got all the blades stitched down. All right, I finished stitching the blades on, and then what I did is I put it face down on a terry cloth towel and gave it a good press from the back. No steam. I just gave it a good press so that the seams would stay over, but I wouldn't make too many real serious marks in the where the seam allowance was. I then also put a patch. Oh, I trimmed my template, or yeah, the foundation fabric around to give myself a seam allowance around it. And I made myself a template of the arc here. Because this is so thick, and this fabric I've chosen for the arc is just cotton thin, I put a small piece of scrap batting there, and I've stitched it in place so that it'll be more level when I add this arc. So I took my template, I traced my arc on the back, I cut out, leaving a seam allowance. On the curve I used pinking shears, because on applique curves it's a great way to, you don't have to do all those little snips. For the most part, it helps curve the fabric without the snips. And so I prepped my upper curve of the arc ready to baste it onto here and to stitch it, and it'll go like so. So next I'm going to applique along this edge the arc down, and then I'm going to turn over all my seam allowances over the, actually how I'm going to do it is I'm going to do a running stitch in my basting thread along the actual fan shape, and then I will use that as my line to turn over the seam allowances, and I will baste it, the seam allowances turned over in place, And then at that point, it'll be ready to stitch to the background. And also, and this isn't for sure, but the more I think about it, the more I love it. I have this bundle of tiny, tiny, shiny white beads, seed beads, I guess. And what I'm thinking of doing, but it'll be after it's stitched to the background, I'm thinking of stitching couching a line of it along each of the seams, and then one final one around the whole thing. I think that'll add such a pretty little detail to the fan on top of what's going on there now. I think so anyways. Okay, so that's where I am right now. That's how I made my fan, and the next video will show me adding the fan to the bigger piece. Okay. Okay, I'm back for an update. Here's where I am. I've basted the fan to the piece, and I will be blind stitching along the edge all the way around and this arc. And then afterwards, probably after I've done most of the other stitching I intend to do, that's when I'll add those beads. I'm pretty sure that I am going to use those beads. I've stitched the frog embellishment down, and I looked it up. Frog, it is frog, and it's called the frog closure, and it's either a decorative or ornamental garment closure. So that's what that perfectly describes that. And it's one of those kind of trims that I've mentioned before, where how I've done it, I like to use a very thin needle, and I come up as close to the edge of the piece or the trim as possible, and then I go down into the trim to the back, and I find that neater than if I come up through the trim and then down into the fabric beside it. I think it's because just how the needle goes through. So yeah, this one's almost finished. I just have a few more stitches to go, but I thought I'd save you the last few stitches to show you. Okay, one more. And I go about, I don't know, every 16th of an inch or so. Sometimes it just comes up in the trim anyways, no matter what I do, so then I'll just go with it. Like this time. Okay, I'm gonna finish that off off the camera. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is I was able to steam this straight with the kettle. So that worked really well with this. I'm going to, like I do with all the others so far, blanket stitch along the edge to attach it to the piece. I was quite disappointed I didn't have any. Normally for that kind of finish I use 2 strands of embroidery floss, but I didn't have any in this color at all. I had one that was kind of a dull teal, but not this color. So what I ended up doing, and that's also why I'm showing you this, I did have a thread that was pretty close, so just a cotton thread. So I used 2 strands of it together, and because I intend to do the embroidery of the feather stitch down the center of this with little rosebud French knots, I didn't want the blanket stitch to go too far into the trim. So I'm just, you can see here there's this finished selvage on the trim that's, I don't know, 1/32 of an inch maybe. I'm using it as my guide for my stitches for the length of the tallness of my stitches, and I'm putting them about 1/8 of an inch apart. So I've done this much so far using the thread, and I'm pleased with that. At least it's not showing like the other embroidery floss would. And then the only other thing, I basted this in place, of course. I wanted to show you how I prepare. This is the one I'm going to have here. How I prepare them. So I cut them. I like to have a 1/2 inch, but I mean, of course, you can adjust your size to whatever you like, but I like to have a 1/2 inch. So what I do is I cut, and I need 4 1/2 inches, so that's like, my brain isn't working. 2 inches. Yes, there we go. So I cut a 2-inch strip, and then I fold it in half, and I get the crease in the middle, and then just like you do when you make your own binding. So I fold to the center, and then I fold in half again, and that is how I finish off edges with pieces like this. So I just didn't bother basting this one yet because I wanted to show you that, but this is where this one is going to go. Okay, I'm going to stitch a little more before I do one final clip, and that'll be it for this week. I'll be back. Okay, here's the final piece for this week. I'll show you the progress I've made. I stitched the fan down to the piece. I will do the beading later. I've basted this edge piece down here and finished edge basting this one down. I did the the feather stitch down the binding there. I stitched the edges too with a blanket stitch. And I forgot to show you the last clip. I did a running stitch in aqua teal down both sides of this one, just to give it an extra little bit of color. I have decided I'm going to clip this flower from the trim and put another version, like one flower on either side of here, just to put it across. And I still have the roses to French knot all the way down here. And I have the idea for this one still is to use to play with this. I haven't started yet, other than pressing it. So that's probably going to go in that clip there. I have this fabric that's in the right color range. I'm thinking of perhaps putting a diamond and stitching like I've done on some of the others up on here. I'm not totally sure. I do think I might use my shinies here, and we'll see how that goes. And for there, I have no idea yet what I want to do. I don't know. Or across the top here, I have to still figure that out. But I've got next week to do that, so I will be back. Thanks for watching this week, and I hope you like the progress that I made. I love this fan. Do you love this fan? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.